我每年大概要去这个1号冰川，平均的每个月都去。夏天的时候，这个频率就非常高了。比如说对批发的时候，可能就是每个星期都去。我叫王飞腾，我来自于中国科学院西北生态环境资源研究院。
At an altitude of more than 3,000 meters, this blue building is the substation of the Xinjiang Glaciological Station under the Chinese Academy of Sciences. It's the last supply station for the expedition team before they visit the glacier. Today, Wang Feiteng will continue an experiment with these geotextiles.
对，也去是吧？我们现在海拔是3500，我们现在马上要向这个天山1号冰川进发。
Urumqi Glacier No.1 is the main source of the Urumqi River, about 130 kilometers from the city of Urumqi. It is the world's closest glacier to a major city.
那么04年是刚考上这个硕士以来，说我当时第一次见到这个冰川，从这乌鲁木齐市，然后一路开车上来，在这么热的夏天竟然在山上还有这么一大片冰嘛，才真正觉得这种大自然太奇妙了。
Urumqi Glacier No.1 was formed 4 million years ago, and the remnants of ancient glaciers here are well preserved. It's known as living fossils of glaciers.
Weather disaster as the winter storm hit the state.
Tornados que podrían ser devastadores para el sur profundo estadounidense.
At the beginning of 2023, scientists from many countries warned of the signs of El Niño. Since the beginning of summer, the high temperatures across the world seem to confirm this. The extreme heat has created another challenge for glacier protection.
那么如果冰川面积缩减了，那么有更多的能量进入到这个地球表面，这样的话就增加了这种全球变暖的幅度。否则一天就晒坏了。
Glaciers are extremely sensitive to climate change, so observing them has become an important means of studying climate change.
这个冰川从59年到现在都可以连续的观测。
Urumqi Glacier No.1 is one of the glaciers observed for the longest and researched the most systematically in China. It is also one of the few glaciers in the world that has been observed for more than half a century.
这我给你一瞧就来了，你先别急，一瞧就来了，你看它来，哎，别动，好，这边这动一点就来了，好了，
这边调对，
正中。
然后我所在的这个方向呢是这个冰川变化，主要是用于用测绘的这个无人机来监测它的一个变化，
进行冰川物质平衡的监测，通过设计试验来进行冰川的保护。
对于这些样品，我们采集到实验室分析它的化学组分，它是一个很珍贵的数据，数据本身就有一定的研究价值。
做冰川研究，你不光这个学术要做得好，那么你这个野外的这种科考能力也非常好同时你也会要应对很多这种极端的情况，比如说碰到野兽了，或碰到这种冰崩雪崩了。冰川事业是一项智勇双全的事业。
There is the only high-altitude glacier research station open for international exchange in China. In terms of area, climate, and location, it is a representative of the glaciers worldwide. In a way, its life and death can predict the fate of glaciers around the world.
1959年的时候，那么这个冰川的面积只有1.9个平方公里。那么到了这个2022年末期，这个冰川的面积只有1.5平方公里。也就是说，在过去50年，那么1号冰川的面积那么缩减了接近22%。歇会儿，你们3个歇会儿。当时我当学生的时候，就说走个10几分钟就可以很容易到达冰川了。最近这2年，因为这冰川它已经后退了嘛，所以你要先翻下去一个小沟然后再爬上来，这个变化还是非常非常明显的 这就说明这个冰川每年都在不断的后退减薄。
Rapid temperature increase is the major cause of glacier melting. In addition, the lack of significant increase in precipitation and the increase in air pollutant emissions are also major reasons for the accelerated retreat of glaciers.
其实心里还是非常难过的，因为这个引起冰川变化的一个主因就是这个气候变暖嘛。但是现在就是很难控制这种气候变暖的速率。那么现在说实话也没有特别好的办法，那只能在这个局部采取一些比较小的措施。在这个冰川下界消融区的时候，冰川的消融区给它铺设一些隔热反光材料。好，我稍微撞点，不要斜了。
The glacier is being covered with fabric to slow its melting. The white geotextile features strong protection and light weight, which is the best choice finalized by Wang's team in recent years after repeated experiments with comprehensive consideration of factors including thermal conductivity, thickness, heat capacity, and cost.
这个它布主要是有2方面的作用。 那么一个是反光，那么一个是隔热，那么反光就是把更多的这种太阳能量发射到这种空气中去，就减少这种太阳能量进入到这种冰川表面。那么同时它还有一个功能就是隔热，就是防止这种镜面的这种短波辐射进入到这种冰川里面去。门对卷就行了，卷开。
Previously, Swiss scientists used woolen blankets to shield and reflect solar radiation to alleviate the melting of glaciers in the Alps. In 2020, Wang's team used 6 rolls of geotextiles to build a 500 square meter experimental area in the ablation area of Dagu Glacier on the eastern edge of the Qinghai Tibet Plateau at an altitude of about 5,000 meters. After more than 2 months, the rate of ice melting in the experimental area slowed down significantly.
大概是在2个月时间内能够减缓有1米多的消融。直接在这个冰川表面覆盖这种材料的吧，就是在应对一些这个即将消亡的冰川，一般这个冰川是很难到达的，所以你用这种方法它很难普及所以说呢，这几年我们也要不断的探寻一些这个新的方法，比如说我们利用这种人工增雪了这个方式了那么这样的话就可以在更大的范围内进行推广。
Glaciers play an important role as a solid reservoir, providing freshwater resources and regulating hydrological regimes. Researchers have found that if glacier melting accelerates, the melted water will increase in the short term, but will decrease after reaching a certain level of runoff, which directly leads to the failure in its regulation of downstream water resources. Data show that in the 1980s and 1990s, the annual runoff of Urumqi Glacier No.1 was mostly 1 or 2 million cubic meters, but in recent years this number has increased sharply, with more than 3 million cubic meters occurring for a few consecutive years. This suggests that an inflection point in the meltwater volume of Urumqi Glacier No.1 has appeared.
关键也是我们这个无论是搞冰川的还是搞这个水文学都非常关注的。根据我们的研究这个1号冰川现在这个冰川径流的拐点现在已经出现了就是可能在这个2014年的前后，那么冰川可能在未来50年或者70-80年很可能会消失。
Every time he goes to the Xinjiang Glaciological Station, Wang Feiteng visits the few remaining herders at the foot of the mountain.
原来冰多，雪也多，雨水也多，河坝水也大嘛。原来一年不如一年，慢慢消的嘛。
To protect Urumqi Glacier No.1, the Xinjiang Uygur Autonomous Region announced the establishment of the Urumqi Glacier No.1 Reserve in 2014, gradually restricting mining, herding, and sightseeing near the glacier.
这北山羊，哇，这么多北山羊！
对，好，北山经常在这带活动。
In addition to the ibex, a national second-class protected wild animal in China, the red deer and wild boar are also rapidly increasing in numbers around the Urumqi Glacier No.1.
前几年好像没这么多，就是最近这几年吧，几乎我每次来都能碰到。我们的中科院的森林所，他们还观察到好像还有雪豹这个地方，因为雪豹它对这个环境它非常敏感，所以说它的生态环境现在变好了。
According to the monitoring data, the efforts of ecological conservation in recent years have had a positive effect on the protection of glaciers, but it is a relatively long process for the conservation and restoration of the ecosystem.
那么我们国家是世界上这种中低纬度冰川分布最多的国家。目前我们国家这个冰川条数大概是有48000条，那么冰川的面积大概是有5.1万个平方公里。
However, from the mid to late 1950s to the beginning of the 21st century, China's glacier area has decreased by about 18%. Glacier melting is also taking place around the world. According to the special report on the ocean and cryosphere in a changing climate, published by the United Nations in 2020, from 2006 to 2020, glaciers outside Greenland and Antarctica lost 220 billion tons of ice per year on a global scale. This corresponds to a sea level rise of 0.61 millimeters per year.
冰川是重要的淡水资源，也是我国西部干旱半干旱地区的水源地。
然后我们现在的这个措施呢，就是主要是先这个保护冰川，让它这个减缓它的消融。
在低碳环保以及气候变化大背景下，冰川保护刚好契合了这两个发展的潮流。
在2022年的12月份，当时呢联合国大会就通过了一项关于冰川的一个决议，就说在这个2025年设为国际冰川保护年。从2025年起，每年的3月21号是冰川保护日。那么因此我们也是呼吁大家就是共同保护环境，保护冰川。